Good morning, everybody. This is Lorraine.
And Jennifer.
And this morning, we're going to talk about baking.
Everybody that knows me knows I cannot bake.
Everybody that knows me also knows I cannot bake. But what I do know is that if you put a cake in the oven and you don't give it enough time, if you leave out some of the ingredients, that cake is just not, it's going to fall flat.
Yep. Yep. There's things you have to do to prepare in order to get the result of a nice cake.
Absolutely. And you know what? The same is true in your business. And both you and I have been doing this long enough to know, well, we've seen a lot of half baked cakes in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And it's often because they had gaps in their idea. They didn't have enough experience in the industry. They didn't think through their fulfillment process. They didn't do a good competitive assessment.
They didn't want to spend the time to do the strategy. This is my favorite part, is to do the strategy, and I think it's yours too, because if and we're not over planners. We just try to think about, like, okay, if that goes wrong, then we got to do this, and we think about, like, strategically what makes sense. And I think sometimes business owners are like, I mean, I don't say this to, like, offend, but, like, okay, it's been 5 minutes, am I making $1 million?
And it doesn't work that way. And the first part is, there is such excitement when you're ready to launch a new business. You're excited because
You're visionary. You're vision. You come up with these great ideas. You just don't know how to execute, and you don't think about the strategy of the execution.
And I really think that the first thing that you need to do is the research. And you need to look at, well, this is a revolutionary product. Nobody has ever made anything like this before. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yesterday, before you created your product, there were customers that had that problem, right?
Yeah.
How did they solve the problem?
Yeah.
Do the research. How are you different? How are you better? Why? Why should someone switch from whatever they were doing before you came along to
How
you?
about just, like, I mean, we've talked about this on other things, but there's things that don't get talked about. Is, okay, what is the logo? What is the branding? What is the messaging behind this? Like, you had this idea, but there's all this stuff. A lot of times, even like the picking of a URL, I see what people pick, and I'm just like, that makes no sense. There was no strategy into that. And there is really a lot to, you don't want to overthink. Let me be very clear. If you try to plan too much, I've seen people do this. They overly plan, and then the day comes and they launch it, and then they're impatient for all the stuff that happens after you launch an idea.
Well, and having been around the block with this a few times now, what I know is that what your original vision is, when it's just in your head, and then when it gets out in the real world and it gets buffered, Mike Tyson once said in an interview, they asked him, how do you plan for a fight? He says, oh, you have all of these. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. He says, you know what? The first punch lands.
Yeah.
Your plan goes out the window.
Yeah.
But if you've got that foundation and that training, you can readjust.
It is so vital to understand that if you've never owned a business and you start a business, that concept, that what your original idea is going to change, because you're going to get out there and you're going to see that either A, this didn't work for you. I mean, we did the last show where we talked about, like, letting someone go. You're going to be like, oh yeah, well, I thought I wanted to work with this, but really, no, that's not working for me. So now I need to do this. And yeah, it changes things.
It changes all the time, either because you didn't really think through, or until you're out there and you're trying to sell it and you're getting that real-time feedback, and customers keep saying, yeah, really not interested in a purple pretzel, but could you make a green one? And now you have to step back and go,
Huh.
let's take them with the green one.
Yeah.
Or I got to find people that really want the purple pretzel, but
Or
it's
I thought I was
vision.
going to sell to B2B, and now I've got a B2C consumer market. Like,
Oh, okay. Round Peg, the original iteration of my business. Round Peg, solutions that fit. It was all about solutions, but it was not about marketing solutions. It was about team building and
interesting.
organization. The tagline stayed with me
Yeah.
because you know what? I got out in the market. There was not a lot of appetite
Mhm.
for the team building services, but there was a lot of appetite for marketing. And I'm like, well, I'm good at this.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you
It
change based on what the market wants.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, same here. I was told you should stay niched and just Google ads. And that was what I was really good at. And I thank God that I actually changed it, because I was like, no, I want to do a lot more than that. And in today's environment of AI, that was a really smart move. Because
Oh,
I think people that were super niched are going to have a hard time here in the next 5 or 10 years, because of how much you can do with AI. So yeah, you just got to be ready for that as a business. I think one of your favorite ones, though, with this subject is when someone tells you that anybody can use my product.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, anybody can, but not everybody will. And
And
that's,
you shouldn't work with everybody.
well, okay, going back to, please go back and re-listen to last week's when it's not a good fit. But even just going out into the marketplace, and I don't care what you're selling. I don't care if you're selling a saltine cracker, the
Yeah.
most basic thing in the world. There are some people who will buy, some people who won't. The chiropractor who says anyone with a spine is my customer. They're not, because
Yeah.
there are people that really understand the benefits of chiropractic medicine.
Correct. Yeah.
And then there are people who think chiropractors are quacks.
So how often should I have an opinion, but I want to ask you first, like, how often, just from a marketing aspect, do you think you should evaluate and revise your marketing strategy?
The very long, well, the overall strategy, the big picture, I think once a year is good. Every 6 months is better. Individual campaigns that run should be evaluated in real time. So my strategy is I want to build a community on LinkedIn. That's my long-term strategy. And I think that's going to ultimately drive traffic to my site. But short term, I'm going to do a campaign where I do video, 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 video. After a month, I want to see, is that working? If not, let's adjust that tactic. I'm not giving up on LinkedIn, but I may adjust what I'm doing.
I was thinking differently.
Okay.
So I was thinking 3 months. I do look at it from a campaign standpoint, and I'm thinking of campaign and strategy more kind of the same. Like I'm thinking of, we're gonna do email marketing and we're gonna do social, and like I'm thinking of that strategy, and I'm thinking, at least every 3 months you need to reevaluate where all and what channels you're doing it. So maybe I was thinking more channel specific every 3 months.
Well, but I think the thing that makes your head spin and makes a marketing agency who's serving you their head spin is, we're going to sell this product to suburban women. Okay. That's the strategy. Now, there are a lot of tactics and campaigns under that.
Yeah.
That's suburban women you need to hold constant.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
And that once a year, evaluate, great. But if you change that underlying.
That, yeah. I'm on the same page. So tactics, though, I think you have to give something at least a 3-month shot before you decide to change. Like, let's say you start with Google ads and you're like not trying to decide whether or not to add social ads. Like, you need to run with Google ads and make sure you've got all your messaging and everything, or vice versa, for at least 3 months before you add the next one into it.
Yeah,
Um,
I would totally agree with that because it takes a while to build momentum.
Yeah, and you figure out what's right or what's wrong. And
Mhm.
so again, you make this strategy and you go into it, but you're not giving it enough time. I see people time and time again. Well, it's been 2 weeks. Should we give up on it and try something else? I'm like, no.
No, no, no. We actually, when I was running the agency, and particularly in content marketing, it takes 3 months.
Yeah,
At 3 months, you start to see the web traffic coming up. And we had clients that would quit at
yeah,
3 months.
yeah,
And just as their traffic was taking off, so we finally got to it. We're like, look, if you're not in it for 6 months,
yeah.
we can't do it because you're not going to see anything for 2 months.
But a lot of people are afraid to say that. I mean, I'm still month to month, but I tell people, like, let's say SEO, and they want to do SEO and they have a brand new website. I'm like, well, you're not going to see results for at least 6 to 9 months, maybe 12, but
Mhm.
it will pay off.
Mhm.
But if you're expecting some sort of return on SEO on a brand new website within the first 12 months, you're going to be sorely disappointed. I don't care who you go to.
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to pause here. I want you to put your idea back in the oven. Let it just a little longer. Do a little more research. Give things a little more time. And we'll see you next week.
All right. Take care.